What is best ball for any of our listeners who may not play it right now? Could you kind of give us a quick summary of how it works?
Yeah, so there are sites that open up draft rooms basically in February, pretty, soon after the Super Bowl ends. They are opening their draft rooms for the following season. And best ball is nice because you draft your team and then you forget it. You don't have to, people love draft. Like, that's the most fun thing about fantasy football, right? Managing our teams in season is fun too, but it can also be time consuming if you're managing multiple teams. So with best ball, there are no ad drops. There are no lineups to be set every week. You get your highest scores at every position every week. You get your single highest scoring quarterback, your 2 highest scoring running backs, 3 highest scoring receivers, 1 highest scoring tight end, and highest scoring team defense, and I think highest scoring flex. And in best ball, you typically, I don't know, in fan ball, it's 20 spots. In NFFC and some of these other sites, they're different rosters. Some are more like 28 guys per team. Mm-hmm. In either case, you get your best scoring guys every week. So sometimes that kind of changes the guys you're going after. You're chasing ceiling a little bit more than floor. So that's the gist of it. It's really a lot of fun. And yeah, man, I've pretty much had at least 1 or 2 best ball drafts in the air ever since like late February, early March, I think.
Love it.
Even before the NFL draft. Yeah, they're a blast.
It is so nice to not have to draft, as you said. The funnest part of fantasy truly is draft day is always the best, but to be able to do that and then not have to deal with the headaches of league management and trades and fantasy picks. And again, we all love that stuff. It's great to have that, but when you do so many leagues, it can start to feel like a headache. So to have that thrill of drafting and not the management is a huge plus to it. You've already kind of hinted at, you want to start targeting ceiling because it auto picks the people in your lineup. What are some other kind of specific philosophies or methods you have to roster construction, if any?
Yeah, so I generally do the fan ball draft.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to have a pretty specific construction. Like, I'll go almost always 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 7 receivers, 2 tight ends, and 3 defenses. And the defense thing is kind of, I don't know, most people I think draft 2. I draft 3 just because I want to maximize my upside chances. And like, those are always my last 3 picks. And that leaves me with 1 spot left over that I will put at, whatever position I consider to be my weakest usually. Although I tend not to do it at quarterback. So it's often a tight end. If I'm kind of waiting on tight end, I'll take a 3rd guy, or maybe I kind of got the left out on some of the top running backs, and maybe I'll add a running back, or maybe I'll take another receiver. But I think early on, I'm generally trying to really hammer the running back and wide receiver positions early on. Just because you've got to start multiple guys every week. I mean, especially receiver, having to do at least 3, plus you can have a flex there. Like, you really want to build a pretty deep basket of wide receivers and kind of hammer those guys early and often.
Absolutely, yeah. I tend to, and I'm still pretty new to the best ball game, but it's very similar to what you say. I love to hammer running back, receiver early, particularly running backs very early in the draft. And I'm not sure if you have like a position you target at various stages. For me, and who knows how successful, we'll see how it goes. I feel like the running back pool kind of shallows out from those like true bell cow upside, the guys that might have 20 to 25 touch upside, especially in high potent offenses. By mid round, by the end of round 2, and sometimes they trickle into round 3 if Melvin Gordon or people like that fall there. So I try to hammer running back pretty early, and then I just load up on those high upside receivers like you're saying that could just boom and have 30-point days that I might not have started. They might have been the headache on my bench, and I always bench them in the wrong weeks and always play them in the right the wrong times too. So it could be those guys. They finally are your flexes at the right time, which is nice as well. So loading up on a bunch of those. Do you have like I was saying, I go running back early receivers. Does it depend on your draft slot, or do you tend to target different types of players and positions at different stages, whether early, middle, or late?
It does to some degree depend on draft slot, but I totally agree with you, Wolf. Like this year in particular, just the way it shakes out, it seems like a running back start makes a lot of sense just because, it's nice to get, if you can get Michael Thomas or Devontae Adams, sure. Like if those guys would be slipping into the second round, Michael Thomas is never slipping into the second round.
Never.
Devontae Adams is almost never slipping into the second round. It's just, it's kind of easier it feels like you're walking downhill the rest of the draft if you start with those two good running backs. You don't feel as obligated to reach for guys later in the draft because it seems like a lot of the running backs you're taking in the 6th, 7th, 8th round feel kind of gross at the round you're taking them. Like, taking Ronald Jones in the 7th round or Tevin Coleman in the 7th round or, even Darius Geis in like the early 6th or something like that. Those don't feel like real confident picks. And meanwhile, some of the running backs or wide receivers you can get in the 6th, 7th, and 8th round are really attractive guys.
Right.
When you can get Jarvis Landry in the 6th round, when you can get, Terry McLaurin late in the 5th round or something like that. I think, the tides definitely sort of are with you when you hit running back early and then start hammering wide receivers for, 3rd through 6th or 4th through 7th rounds. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm with you. That's kind of been my build too. And then just getting back to roster construction, like the middle rounds, that's a good time to hit your tight ends and your quarterbacks, I think. Like, sometimes it's nice to have Travis Kelce or George Kittle. Obviously, you're making a sacrifice at running back and wide receiver to do that. So I tend to shot more at the Jonnu Smith, TJ Hawkinson type level. And, you can always find some pretty interesting tight end prospects in the middle rounds, along with like the bulk of the late QB1 types, the Carson Wentzes, the Matt Ryans. That's kind of how you should spend your middle rounds, I think, for the most part.
Absolutely, yeah. I know we keep highlighting the depth at receiver, but tight end, some of those names you just tossed out, Jonnu Smith, TJ Hawkinson, don't go till tight end 20. And there's 20 tight ends with huge weekly upside. That's also a pretty deep pool for a position that's a onesie position and also has typically been so shallow. And who knows if there will actually be consistency. It's been tough to find more than 6 to 7 yearly consistently guys. But I guess in best ball, that's not about necessarily having that steady guy is going to be reliable every week. It's 2 to 3 explosive guys late that, hey, this one blew up one week, this guy disappeared, but it doesn't matter because the best one is in my lineup. So I'm fully aboard the roster construction that you're suggesting and the when and where to target players. We're going to dive into specific players in 1 second. I just wanted to shout out this article because, I'm pretty new to best ball, but I was reading up yesterday just to make sure I didn't sound like a buffoon on this podcast. And there's an article on 4for4, another one of my favorite fantasy sites out there. And it's a great one about the roster construction of the most winning FFPC, one of the bigger best ball tournaments, roster construction from last year. And the top one, the 10.8% win rate had 3 quarterbacks, 7 running backs, 8 receivers, 4 tight ends, 3 defenses. So that was just to shout out what was the actual science behind it. That was the main winning lineup. Of course, there's other ways you can go about it. It was only at 10.8%. But hey, any edge out there we'll look for, we'll take. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.